What's going on, YouTube guys and gals? Today we have a consumer class broadband router we're going to install here at work. This is for our test DSL line that we use here in the office, so we're not using anything enterprise infrastructure type grade. We're just grabbing a consumer based router here to put up. This one, model number TEW-813DRU. It's an AC 1200 dual band router. TRENDnet's got a list of these of similar model number. The model number structure doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. You got the 813, which you see here, and the 811, which are basically the exact same router. The 811 though offers you a ability to put custom firmware on, as well as allegedly has a higher gain receiver, although it still only has 2 antennas for the MIMO stream, so you're still only getting 300 megabit on your 802.11n channel. Then you have the 812, which has an additional MIMO antenna, so you're getting 450 megabit on your 802.11 stream there. And then you go up to the 818. So like I said, the numbers kind of jumping around there, but 818 will get you up to 600 megabit on your 802.11 channel. The reason why we went with the 813, we don't really need the big speeds, if you will, on the 802.11 stream. Most of your consumer products that have an 802.11 card in them are going to top out at 300 megabit anyway. So your bottleneck is going to be at your NIC, not at the router. Also, we don't need a USB 3.0 port. This one has a USB 2.0 port, which will serve the same functions as being a very rudimentary NAS server for putting an external hard drive on. We don't need those functionalities. The 812 and the 818 have a USB 3.0 and a 2.0 port, so that was just a worthless feature to us. The 812 runs you about 110 and the 818 runs you about 140. This guy here and its cousin, the 811, you can pick up for around 60-70 bucks. So that is a heck of a steal for a router that gives you 802.11 AC support. So this guy, brand new in the box. We're going to make this a little bit quicker of an unboxing than the last one that you just saw last week. So let's get down to it. Let's hopefully not make a 35-minute long video about a router. So let's open this guy up. Right there, front and center. I know some people are kind of weird about leaving their wireless keys hanging out there. I don't really care because we're not going to keep those wireless keys anyway, so if you want to come hack my network or try, good luck. But anyway, here's our router. Looks very, very nice. You got your status LEDs on the front to let you know you got USB linked up, your wireless protection, or WPS for instant connect rather, your 5 gigahertz band, 2.4 gigahertz band up and running, your internet network link, and just your power LED status. On the back side, like we said, we've got one USB 2.0 port. There's your WPS quick link key to get that set up if you have a supported card. You got a 4-port switch on the back. These are 10100 1 gig switch, as well as a 101 gig uplink as well. And then you got a dedicated power key as well, and then your space for your adapter. Nothing on top, nothing on the bottom. Pretty simple looking little router here. You also have your wireless key information down there on the bottom as well. And we've got our power adapter. And let's see what kind of cable they gave us. There you go, Cat 6. Are we high class? No, Cat 5e. So it'll work for gigabit. No big deal. It's not Cat 6, but hey, it fits the bill, right? So now just to hit on a couple quick features of this guy. The 813 and the 811, like I said, have the exact same chipset in them. So you're going to get the around 867 megabit on your 802.11ac channel running at 5 gigahertz. The 812 and the 818 is where you get the difference in the chipset, and that paired with a slightly different antenna is going to get you up to the 1300 megabit that you can typically see out of your 802.11ac. Now that's all kind of theoretical speeds. Real world scenario, you're probably not going to see the 1300 megabit connection, but hey, if you're sitting right on top of the router, you might. But anyway, with this guy here, you pair that up with 300 megabit out of your wireless in channel. So that's telling me that we've got two antennas running MIMO for 802.11 in. Difference being in the 812 and the 818. 812 you gain another antenna, so you got 3 for 450 megabit on your in, which then brings you up to the 1750, which is not what we get here. We get the AC 1200 here. That's your 867 plus 300, get you roughly 1200. So AC 1750 on the 812, AC 1900 on the 818. That's going to be 600 plus your 1300 megabits, getting you the AC 1900. Anyway, back to a few extra specs here. Like we said, it's got the USB port on the back side for hooking up a USB or a external hard drive. You can use that to share out videos and music and such. Of course, it supports WPA2 encryption. You can isolate out a guest network for your network. You can also create an additional 2 SSIDs per channel on this. You also have the WPS button on the back, and as we said, the switch ports are all gig switch. And you can see here they go up to the 1750 on your comparison chart, but you can see that everything here is basically the same. You're getting all the same features, which is why I selected this model. For the price and the feature set which we need, it's a no-brainer. I mean, we're not going to spend over $100 for a router to just sit for occasional use. Gigabit wireless is the only thing that you're seeing the difference in here, and that's when you step up to the AC 1750 or the AC 1900 like we discussed with the 818 model and the 812 model. So everything else exactly the same. Like I did mention, your 812 and your 818, you are getting an additional USB port for USB 3.0 capability. So let's get this guy hooked up on our DSL, and don't know that we're going to use the disk. I'm not a big fan of using setup disks, so we'll probably skip that. We'll definitely skip using the user guide because user guides are for amateurs. So we're going to slap this thing up online and we're going to connect up, and I'll throw a screen capture from my laptop and we'll show you guys what it's like going through the setup on this thing. Alright, so we're plugging up the router here. I just thought I'd show a quick little me putting this all together so you can see how amazingly simple this all is. So here we go, we're throwing the power cable in. That's seated correctly. Going up to the DSL modem here, you can see the DMARC line comes down for our DSL modem, and we've got just a short little Cat5 patch cable here that we're going to hook into the WAN port on our switch on the back of this router. Got that secure. We're going to hit the power button, and we're going to watch this guy boot up here. It doesn't take too awful long for him to boot up. Maybe 2-3 minutes total before we're up and ready to rock and roll here. So we'll let the LED lights flicker and flash and do their thing. Come on, router. Get out of the way there, finger. This first part here of the LEDs, you'll see the 2.4 and the 5 gig load up. I think that's more of just like a progress status, because then they flicker off and now you can see both radios came back on again and they're staying lit now. So both radios are initialized and ready to go. And here in a second we're going to see our internet link come up. There we go. And the modem is now up and running. So now we're going to flip over. We got the laptop up here. And you see the two SIDs that are up right there. One's going to be the 2.4 gig channel and one's the 5 gig channel. There's your 2.4 up above there. It showed up top because obviously it's the strongest. I'd rather connect on the 5 gig channel. It's strong enough. So I'm going to connect up there. We're going to use the provided security key that was on that sticker. Don't go writing down my password. Super top secret stuff here. And it's going to connect up. And of course we get the classic Windows 7, what kind of network are you sitting on here? So we're going to give it the work profile here. And you can ignore the additional logon settings warning there that came up. It will connect up. However, the router is not going to allow you into internet space until you step through the basic setup guide with it. So and you can see here, I think Windows is getting kind of confused here. I could have probably just went on ahead and launched the browser and it would have taken me directly to the landing page, but eventually here I get impatient and I'll go ahead and do that anyway. So instead of launching to the MSN homepage like normal, we go directly into the router's landing page for the setup wizard. So we're going to step through this real quick. It's verifying our internet network connection. And you get the standard 192.168.1. whatever IP address that's going to dole out for your internal network. That's going to save that setting up to the firmware. At this point, the router is set up and ready to go with default settings. Obviously, I don't recommend using the default settings because anybody who is halfway decent at hacking can basically figure out the trend that TRENDnet is making for their routers, SIDs, and randomly generated passwords. I'm sure there's some kind of methodology behind it, but always in your best interest to change the SID and change the password to your wireless network to something that not only you'll remember, but something that's unique and hard for hackers to figure out. So here we go. We're at the front page of the admin login. The admin login there, you saw admin was the user ID. Password is also given on that sticker as well. So here we are at the landing page. Shows us basically a brief overview of the connected status. You can see devices connected at a glance. Your two radios, 5 and 2.4 gigahertz. Your network connections, guest network, whether that's up, USB if that's up. Next tab down, you got the wireless status, what modes your 2.4 and 5 gigahertz radio are going to run in, whether or not you want to enable or disable these radios. Also, you can change the SSID here, and whether or not you want to broadcast that SSID or make it a hidden network. You can also change the frequency of your channel, and then you also have your channel width spread, the 20 megahertz versus 20/40 megahertz. By Cisco standards, 40 megahertz on the 2.4 gigahertz channel is not an approved setting. However, there are network cards out there that will support that, so you can enable that if you want, if you have those devices, but otherwise it's best just to leave it at 20 megahertz to reduce the chance of interference. And here we're down at the 5 gigahertz channel, and you got the exact same options. Now we bounced into the advanced tab, and I didn't really want to do that. I was just kind of playing around there and did not know what I was going to end up clicking on. So we're going to take a glance here, I suppose, at the advanced tab. The system time is a little out of whack just because it doesn't know what time zone I actually am in. So I'm going to go ahead and correct that here since I stumbled across it. And it's going to write that change back into the firmware. And now you see the times corrected based off the pool.ntp.org NTP server. So now we're going to go back to where we left off here. So nothing else new here. The 5 gigahertz channel has the exact same options. You notice you have the 2040 80 megahertz, 80 coming in for the AC 802.11 AC standard. So there's your channel width for that as well. Basically, you could disable that AC channel by dropping it down to an auto 2040 or an auto 20 channel width. And you can enable, disable that radio, change the SSID, all that good stuff as well. So let's go over to the next tab here, guest network settings. This is the quick and easy way to enable your guest network connectivity. Give it a name, give it a password, whether or not you want to isolate your clients to where anybody that's using the guest network are not going to see other users on your guest network, so on and so forth. And then we got parental control. Parental control access is really light on this router. Really, it's just more of a schedule and a MAC based rule that you can set up for it. You can set up website filters, but it's very, very basic parental settings. So for our use, it'll do. So here we go. The first tab you saw there was just an overview status. Next tab, IPv6 settings. If your cable or DSL modem supports those, got a brief system log that you can go through for advanced diagnostics. You got advanced networking where you can set up your plug and play. Basic settings management where you can export your current configuration and or reload that configuration. You can also do a reboot of the router from this menu. Date and time settings we saw that I popped into before. This is your local area network settings and your WAN settings as well. If you need to make any fine tuning adjustments to make the router compatible with your modem, you'd have to have a pretty old modem or a pretty sophisticated modem to have to mess with that. Most of it's automatic and just plug and play. Here you can set up routing tables if you have a home-based server that you need to network back into. You can route basically any requests through ports there and set up that routing table. You got some advanced IPv6 settings, whether or not you're enabling DNS and DHCP for those settings. You also have some scheduling settings, whether or not you want to lock down functionality of the router during any kind of specific time frame to keep people off your network. And here we have the firmware upgrade. You notice I launched that in a new tab because I do believe there is a firmware upgrade. You got a management tab there for advanced management of the router itself, DHCP client list, and then this, accidentally, I wasn't reading, I was just clicking aimlessly there. It relaunched my setup guide there, so if you wanted to step back through the setup wizard, you can do so. Here's the, as of this month, TRENDnet's homepage. I'm going to go ahead and type in the model number of the router that we picked up here. And we're going to look for the firmware download link. And if you remember what was on the status page prior to 1.01, I believe is what's that saying, B03. That firmware is the newest, and this router is not running on that. This router was running on a firmware, I believe, from September. So I think I'm going to pop back into the, I was trying to look for the firmware version here, and I was failing miserably at this, I believe. Here we go, status links. So, firmware version, you see, I scrolled past it because I wouldn't know, 1.00, and it was a May 2014 release of the firmware there. So we're going to go ahead and download this. TRENDnet's website is actually pretty nice to navigate. Everything that you need or they think that you're going to need is pretty well right up on top. Not a whole lot of, hey, use our express downloader or any bull honky like that. So here we go at my whopping 6 meg connection. Going to download that firmware update. And while that's doing that, we're going to take a look at some more of the advanced settings. We got the 2.4 gigahertz advanced configuration here. Here you can enable WDS for your 2.4 gig channel. Under your advanced, you have just some fine tuning that you can set there for your 2.4 radio. Here we can set up those multiple SIDs that we were talking about earlier. So if we want multiple broadcast SIDs, so we can segment our network, you can do that there. And then here we have MAC filtering per SSID, so that way you can keep your hardware at a hardware level going to whichever network you need it to go to if they're configured for auto connection. WPS configuration for each radio is available there as well, so if you're WPS, if you want to keep those devices on one radio versus the other, you can do that as well. And here I kind of just skipped down because it's all the exact same settings in the 5 gig channel as well. You can see the station list there. There's the laptop that I'm currently using, and it's actually spot on with its connection rate at a 162 meg. So the is very accurate in telling you what your current devices are doing on that particular router. Stepping through a couple security access controls though, here we can set filters based on IP address and whatnot. We also have advanced firewall settings that we can do. We can set the DMZ demilitarization zone as well, whether or not you want to place a device outside of the hardware firewall of the router. Not too many instances that a home network user would need to do this, and we don't need to do that in our configuration either. Here you can set up a virtual server if you want an IP address based server that you can dial into. You can in turn turn this on and get that set up, and also set a schedule for when you can actually access that. Here we have some port triggering functions for special applications, whether or not you need those for any kind of gaming or other type of app that you might use. And there's also a special tab for the gaming as well. A lot of PC gamings are already pre-configured here. You can also add them in as they come out. And there's also a couple preset settings for Xbox Live and PlayStation Network. I've never seen a need to use that, but it's there if your internet service provider is making you use those. And then here we have some ALG application level gateway configurations. Really don't need to mess with anything here. It's just turning protocols on and off that the router will actually acknowledge and help you with. And then last, you've got your USB settings, whether or not you want to set up a simple file store server off that USB 2.0 port on this particular router. Also set up your account list and your administrator password for managing the content on that USB drive. And then whether or not you want to set that USB drive up for an FTP server that you can dial into from outside your internal network. You can configure user account list and an admin account to manage that file store as well. So then that's really about it for this little guy. This is really, it's an awesome router for the price that we paid and the technology that you get. It can't be beat, really. I mean, I honestly don't think it can, but definitely is worlds above the old Netgear wireless G router that we're replacing it with. So we've been very impressed with it so far. I haven't had any issues or anything like that. So, but if anything does come up, I'll definitely let you know. If you guys have any other questions about it or would like to see any other special configuration, definitely let me know down in the comments below. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. If you really did, leave a comment while considering subscribing for more content like this. But until next time, this is just another day at the office for me.